I think today we'll do a rollout. I was going to teach acts. Now, I posted last night some of the links to various things that we discussed on those videos yesterday. Today, the news obviously is going to be the James Comey testimony. The whole idea, the whole concept, I mentioned the Eric Von Wade, local media personality who took to the airwaves on his radio show criticizing the CCPD, and the reason was his girlfriend wanted him to get arrested, and she finally accomplished that. But after he got arrested, the night he was arrested and had to bond out, she, and I believe somebody with her, stole his truck from where he lives. And they took it down south, just abandoned the truck. So now he's in jail. Of course, couldn't do anything. Got out, found out she stole the truck. He called the cops. Now she stole the truck. Okay, he believes that the girlfriend, in her desire to go after him, not only fabricated the altercation, but then stole the truck, which the truck was indeed stolen. What you could see from that is something that's important to understand the accusation she made against him. That she was going after him for whatever reason, a relationship problem, and then even after she got him arrested and accomplished what she wanted, then she committed another crime, besides false testimony, to get his truck stolen, which showed you that she didn't see her testimony as lying. She wanted to accomplish something. Now, in the history of the county here, I mentioned the mechanic case, which was another girl that was out at 3 a.m., involved in all types of crimes. But something went wrong. She was with this mechanic, Rubio, but then this girl, she willingly went back with him. I guess they were using cocaine together. From what I read in the paper, the mechanic had a drug problem. But something happened, because everything was shown that she lied about being bound, she lied about being kidnapped, she lied about all of that. That came out in the court. Yet they convicted him on those crimes, or on the crime of rape, and sent him up. Now that girl is still out, sort of like the Lady and Bishop case. What they did in those cases was they didn't care that they were lying. In these particular cases, they wanted law enforcement, as well as the court system, to carry out a particular thing, going after for whatever reasons. And they accomplished that. Now what you have here in this time period where I speak, there are going to be elections coming up, and judges and courts, and the Colder Times gets involved in all this. But the people that were involved in a lot of that do not seem to realize that when they allowed lying and false testimony and withholding of evidence and suborning of perjury, which took place with the officials in the county, the past Mark Skirka, and getting all of these types of things, that's just as criminal as the things you see me try to help my friends get away from. You see, some of my friends were involved in drug things and all types of stuff. And according to many stories, some of the stuff that they were involved in had to do with corruption within law enforcement. Meaning the resale of drugs in the streets. I've heard my friends talk more that some of my friends in their pasts, hopefully they're getting away from some of these things. But part of what they did was, transport drugs, We're close to Mexico, and they take many risks. They did in the past. But some of the testimony from them, and I would say it's just as sure as the testimony that this Nueces County has used in the many cases I've covered. But some of it was they called it cop dope. Okay. Does that happen in your area? Of course it does. They arrested the police chief out of Driscoll for going into the evidence locker and personally using drugs. So sure it happens. The problem is here, it seems like in Nueces County, and Driscoll is in Nueces County, but it's a small town. I used to pass it. It seems like here a lot of that is looked upon as, they don't police themselves. And so all of these upcoming elections, what do you have against Sandra Watts? The only time I was ever before Miss Watts, okay, correct the record, is many years ago, 15 years ago, I had jury duty, but at the time I had my wife's friend had a son, and the Child Protective Services were going to take the son away or something like that. I know the people till this day. His name is Chris, and they were friends of ours. So for like a week, Chris stayed here. When he got off the bus from school, he had to get off of the bus here, and it was, okay. And so I waited, and every day I made sure I was home when the bus dropped the boy. Well, I had jury duty during that time, so I had to go, and we sat. It was Sandra Watts. And so I told the guy when I went into jury duty, I said, well, do you have an excuse to get out? I said, well, actually, we're taking care of, we're not foster parents, but we have a kid that we officially are watching right now, for that whole thing. So then he looked at it. He said, okay, but you'll have to sit here and then you'll be released after you'll go into Miss Watts' court, and then she talks about jury duty and all. Okay, so when I was in Judge Watts, Miss Sandra Watts, she gave a very long talk about the history of law and the 117th District Court, and like so noble. You've seen some of the corruption in this place, it's unbelievable. But during her talk, she says, and most of you are here today to serve, and she says, but one of you will not be here with us, after this. You've been basically like excused. Of course, I thought she was talking about me, sort of like, in a negative way. So I waited, and by maybe noontime, after that, I left. I came back to the house because she did say during that meeting with all the potential jurors, one of you will not be coming back, but the rest of you will be back. So I'm at the house, like at 3 in the afternoon. My wife and I believe the lady was here, the mother of the kid. She finally got home, and that we're watching. My wife says, there are 2 cops or sheriff's deputies at the door looking for you. And I was back in my back room. I said, what? So I go to the door, and they have a warrant for my arrest, and they handcuffed me. Now, before they handcuffed me, I said, what do you mean a warrant? Miss Watts put out a warrant for your arrest because you left jury duty. I said, she told me that I was released from jury duty. Just the story I just explained to you. Now, I was mad. I had to go get changed. And the 2 sheriff's guys, either police or sheriff's department, they saw I was mad. So we had fake little guns, like toy guns. And she said one of the guys put the newspaper over the fake gun. I have them right here. They're like little air guns. She said, oh, they were scared because they saw you were mad. Of course I was mad. They handcuffed me, took me. And then I'm in the courthouse with Miss Judge Watts in the hallway. And I was loud. They had to come out. I said, I want representation. I said, you arrested me under false pretense? After saying you're released from jury duty, you put handcuffs on me? I said, are you kidding me? I said, you get me a lawyer. They said, oh, you got to wait in the hall here until Miss Watts calls for you. I said, you got to get me a lawyer. That's what you got to do. I said, you're required by law to give me representation. So they went in, and they still had the jury duty thing going on. They said, oh, he's in the hall, because she heard me kind of yelling. And she said, go tell him to shut up. And then the response was, by law, you need to provide me with representation before I come in and speak to you, Miss Watts. Sure enough, they came out, they went downstairs, and they got some lawyer to come up and say, because that's my right, and they wouldn't have cared about the rights. They think they could do what they want. I forget who the guy was. He came up, he was one of the lawyers at the courthouse. Okay, what is... I said, I'm going to do all the speaking, don't worry, brother. I said, I just wanted them to abide by law. And by law, if they come and arrest me at my house for releasing me from jury duty, I said, but I'll do all the talking. So finally, when I went in, she had this thing like, who do people think they are to challenge us? Miss Watts, you're in violation of Scripture. Suffer not a woman to usurp authority over a man. So I said, you know, Miss Watts, you released me. I said, you said during the thing that one of you will not be coming back. After I told the bailiff ahead of time, I said, I have a kid that we watch. Now, she checked, because I gave the name of the kid, Chris. And she actually checked, which I didn't lie. He was under our care for that week. But then she said, so you're a foster parent. I said, I never said I was a foster parent. Then I said, you know, you gave some speech to the potential jurors. Held us there for an hour or so, even before this happened. I said, you talked about the foundation of natural law and all. I said, and do you know where that foundation comes from, Miss Watts? It comes from Scripture. And and this was, like I said, many years ago. I said, in order for your system here to work, dear, you have to speak true testimony. Because they lied about at the bailiff saying you could be released. He was there, and he lied. He said, I never told him that. He lied. I said, so this guy's lying to you right now. Because he's the one that told me I'd be released after the whole thing. And then you made the statement right there from the bench saying one of you will not be back. I said, so obviously, according to you, your side had the misunderstanding. And you had the gall to come put handcuffs to me at my house. Now, we had two bounty hunters out of Texas. These bounty hunters, like some of these criminal cops, think that they could kill, shoot, assault, punch a black kid in the face because he's going to record his arrest. And these bounty hunters went and found some guy in another state. This happened this last week. I didn't comment on it yet. The article was interesting because not only was the guy they went after killed, but he killed both of those bounty hunters. And these were bounty hunters out of Texas. The story said when they got there, they were representing themselves as federal law enforcement, which was a lie. And they often do that. They're not federal law enforcement. They're just bounty hunters. But they had that gung-ho thing. And it was at a auto dealership. And they had a tip because they were going to go get this guy just purely for money. They get money when they bring them back. That's what a bounty hunter does. But when they went to the auto dealership, sure enough, that guy was there and he was armed. But those bounty hunters were like, and they lied about who they were. That guy pulled out a gun. There's a firefight. And the article said, but they weren't prepared because both of them were killed, including the guy they were after. Now they're dead, but they violated the law in the sense that they thought, well, you know, we're out of Texas. We do what we want. So that one thing I just told you about Miss Watts alone, because she's running now for re-election for the 117th District Court. But she's the same one in some of those other cases that I mentioned yesterday, who it was quite obvious that multiple of the women lied in various big cases, the Bishop lady and then the local mechanic story. But I remember after, even though it looked like, boy, these ladies lied, and for whatever reasons, the Bishop woman, it looks like she lied because the carpenter she hired did not want to have sex with her. And then she made up a story. That's what that looked like. But after the convictions, and one of them I know was Miss Watts, she berated him, the most despicable human being ever. And I thought, isn't that funny? Because that case could have went the other way. just depending on how the jurors do their things here in this county. But yet she thought she served her purpose. Any of that, and all of those decisions, any of them that were false, that were wrong convictions or false testimony, there's now a judgment on this county for that. I don't take that lightfully, that one mechanic is now in prison for, I don't know, many, many years. And it was revealed in court that she lied about many things in that case. But yet you accomplished that. This local area accomplished that. So today we're going to talk some on some of these issues. But in that little example about the jury duty, that gave you an example how a woman on the bench usurped authority, did wrong. And I would accuse that as false imprisonment, actually. I could bring charges against you, Miss Watts, because that was indeed false imprisonment. And the bailiff who said I'd be released right after that thing, and you said it in your very 117th District Court, one of you will not be back, that's enough evidence to show wrongful imprisonment. Just on that alone, on the jury duty thing, I could sue you. But I won't. But you should never be reelected now to the court, because that's just a simple thing. And how many times have you done that in this county on more serious things? And you just hope the people, whether they're Hispanics, whether they're low education, that you think, well, we've done that multiple times in much more worse cases. You sure have. You sure have. You have questions about the shooting of the judge in your courthouse. National media still to this day questions whether Mr. Tom Greenwell was murdered in that court. And I posted links to news articles that question that. So you want change. It's not going to happen quickly in this area, because all of that has to be cleared out. All of that has to be cleared out. You want to be a voice for righteousness, Caller Times and local media. You've done some good reporting on some of those things, but I've showed you how you've also manipulated in some of the other things. So today we'll talk some on these issues. Here's the thing I mentioned it yesterday, I just saw. I told Pops was an old man, those that don't remember. And I started helping Pops a few years ago. He lived right by the courthouse off of Waco Street. He was just an old man, and I helped Pops. And then he died of cancer. But I promised him he knew I did the granite stuff and all. Why don't you serve the people, those of you in authority? Many of the scriptures I've been teaching the last few weeks, Jesus said, in the Gentile world, they think authority is all about being over people. I call you to account, Miss Watts, on that one thing. Just one thing. That was illegal what you did. You put handcuffs on me because you yourself had a miscommunication in your so-called sacred 117th District Court. And you were in violation of Scripture, dear. Because the Scripture says, I suffer not a woman to usurp authority over a man. You say, John, but there's other women. No, but you're now in the light. Your particular transgression, dear. So you should be like Mr. Skirpin, those that had been involved in all of this. Many, 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 many cases. You should just go home, put your judge's robe up, hang it up, and then sit and wait for the day where you will give an account for every word that you spoke, every false testimony that you allowed to happen in your so-called sacred court.